Okay, well, we've got a very, very special guest on the Gentleman Cabbie YouTube channel this edition. I'm sure for everyone in the taxi trade, he probably needs no introduction, but just for the rest of my viewers who may not know who this chap is, if you could just explain who you are and what you do, that'd be brilliant.
Well, my name's Sean. I'm a cab driver, basically. I'm a contributor to London Taxi Radio, and well, like a lot of people, I try and affect some change in the business. That's about it. That's as good as it gets for me.
And how did you become so involved with the trade? Because obviously there's been a lot of news surrounding you recently.
Well, I was just a dayman, and it was, you know, I was like everybody else. I went out, did the work, went back home, and really it was a bog standard day and really quite boring. And then it all kind of kicked off. I've been on Twitter before, or there was this kind of what seemed like a rebellion against what seemed to be infracting into our industry. I thought, you know what, I'm going to get part of this. But then I caught on to something that Brussels was doing. They was taking part in a demonstration, but they was appealing for kind of you know, other cities to kind of take part in it as well. I thought, you know what, that's a good idea. So I capitalised on it. I set up World Taxi Unite, and then pushed out just something that seemed like on a big scale. To get big, you got to think big. So I thought I'll make out this is huge. What is happening? There's going to be a global taxi strike, you know, demonstration, and it's going to affect the economy internationally, you know, the global economy. And it kind of took off. It really took off. Other countries, other cities took part, and in the end, about maybe 15 cities took part.
And was that was all promoted via social media?
It was all on Twitter, really. It galvanised people. They really did buy into the enormity of it. I think they thought it was big. It wasn't. It was just me. Support black taxis were great. The day was great. I felt as if it re-energised people, and that was the point of doing it in the first place. I thought lethargy had set in. There was a lot of apathy. People didn't have solutions, and I thought people just needed re-energising.
I suppose there has been a little bit of controversy around you recently. Now, I don't want this video to be bashing the LTDA, because I think between us, between us, I think we do a lot of bashing, probably quite rightly so on London Taxi Radio. But for everyone sort of watching, what is the situation now, and what happened? Why did this all come about?
Well, there shouldn't really be any controversy. First of all, I'm a cabman, and to me the trade comes first. I genuinely thought the LTDA had kind of lost the way a little bit on the communication side. And in fact, they had never really communicated that well. They communicated via the taxi newspaper. And that, if you had social networking, that taxi newspaper had become retrospective. You kind of was ahead of it, and it wasn't really serving us that well. So I thought, you know what, we'll get a couple of people, me and Parker Cabbie, we went up there and thought, we'll get lines of communication going again with the trade. Because they've got the biggest membership. They could be a mighty force in the trade. They really could be a mighty force. They could hold TfL to task. They could, you know what I mean? They could really be the real big negotiator. And it just seemed like we were losing everything. Everything that was going for was to the erosion of our industry. So we thought we'll go to the branch meeting, which they did advertise, but it was in the classified, and it seemed that there wasn't really encouraging people to go out there, you know, and engage with.
So you thought you'd go up there and start poking the hornet's nest?
Well, do you know what? That wasn't the intention. The intention was healthy. The intention was, let's just get some interaction. Let's get some engagement going. If they have lost a little bit of touch, or if we are missing something here, or if we could even help get some engagement with the trade, with the members going, that was a good thing. It was all done with good intentions.
So what is the situation with you? And
I've been expelled.
Right.
Okay. So much for you know, enabling, you know, lines of communication with drivers.
The end result wasn't quite what you'd expected when you first started out.
It was only after I went up there that I felt there was massive inconsistencies.
Yeah.
Especially between the old guard that was up there. They'd say one thing, they'd say another thing, and it just. I came to the realisation that a lot of what they were saying was just tokenism, and really wasn't going to have any impact whatsoever to our benefit. In fact, by them saying it, I felt it was detrimental to our industry, and from then on I felt as if I needed to take them to task whenever I felt it was justified.
you know, no one seems to have achieved very much. We've done strikes or protests, but nothing's really done much. I mean, what is the answer moving forward? What would you like to see?
I think the orgs need a complete overhaul, all of them. It's funny that they've carried on doing the prevailing standard of what they did before the private hire consultation come in, which really kind of amended the private hire bill. But they're carrying on doing the same thing. And I thought, if it didn't work before, you've got to really all have a rethink. Because I do think the orgs are on the back leg a little bit, because drivers are getting organised. I mean, St Pancras was a typical example of that, where drivers were able to come together, collect, work cohesively, and target, have a real hard, professional, precise target of what they wanted. Whereas actually, I think the orgs are a bit in limbo. I mean, they could have called that, and yet I don't think they're able to, think down. I don't know, different ways of thinking, different ways of navigating their way through this, because they've never been confronted with this either.
Yeah.
So I think they're losing their remit to a degree. They're going to have to turn things around and represent the trade in a completely different way, whatever that is. So, I understand that there's certain basics that you have to hold on to, and I understand applying for hire, but it needs to be argued in taking into consideration 2016, not taking into consideration 1965.
We aren't there anymore, are we? Unfortunately, the landscape has changed, and it's not ever going to go back to that, is it?
I mean, if you're arguing antiquated laws to re-establish yourself as what you once were, you're not going to get it. You've got to be able to argue your case with the technology that's come through.
I mean, whatever anyone says, it is a really difficult conundrum now, because, the customer obviously would like to be able to have transport available at the touch of a button, regardless of whether it's a black cab, a mini cab. At some point soon, it's probably going to be a driverless cab. I don't, but you see my point, and the whole point of that whole law of not available for instant hire has really just been totally smashed to smithereens.
But I tell you what, this is only the beginning. I think our trade has to be, it has to have some foresight, because I think what you're going to get a second wave of innovation run through, and I think if we're not prepared, or we're looking ahead to see how we're going to kind of corner our piece of the market, I think we're going to be in big trouble. I do think there'll be a place for a professional driver-led taxi service in London. I do, because you've got the frail, you've got the disabled, you've got bags, who will do that? It'll be more like a chauffeur service, I assume, and it's speculation, of course, but it might not be us, and we have to make sure it's us. And how do we make sure?
So how do we do that, Sean? Give me some positive images of the future.
I think there is a positive image. I think being fully conversant with the infrastructure of the roads, I think that's very good. I think that could be really beneficial, even when there's automated cars on the road, because I don't know from the word go how much they'll be able to diversify. I mean, the thing is that there's a toxic relationship with TfL. That needs to be sorted out. We need to get TfL negotiating with the trade again. The only way you would do that is if certainly the LTDA need to come out of TfL. They can't be beholden. They can't protect TfL. They need to be a formidable force there. I think we can all play our part. The biggest thing, though, for me, is we've got to be strong enough as a trade so that they will negotiate with us, but also, and we are dismissing this very easily, we've got to promote the street hail.
Yeah.
Because that does tie in with applying for hire, but the street hails all but been lost.
Yeah.
You don't see it anymore, and I just think we have knee-jerked to these apps as the fashionable thing. Now, it might be that it is lasting. They might be able to, kind of transcend just a trendy thing to do. But we need to promote the street hail as being the sexy, the fashionable, the free thing to do. We have to promote us as being streetwise, because they need a postcode to get to Buckingham Palace. The difference between minutiae little, hotels And I think that is the difference. If you're streetwise, the passenger is streetwise.
Just to start wrapping up, I want to ask you a couple of more sort of personal questions.
Oh, please do.
If you could go back in time, what would you say to your younger self?
Always make sure you end up having made the right regrets.
And then finally, what is the best piece of advice you've been given? It can be a piece of cabbie wisdom, or it could be completely outside the cab trade.
Do what makes you come alive. You know, really do what makes you come alive. Because what the world needs is people who have come alive. And if you have that energy, and if you have that vibrance, and if you're not just doing it for yourself, and I'm not saying with benevolence, but you know, doing it for like-minded people with the same cause, then I think you will give back 1,000-fold.
Well, can I just say, Sean, it has been an absolute pleasure chatting to you. You are a true gent, sir, and I'd like to say thank you for everything that you've done for the trade up to this point, and for being an entertaining person to know and an entertaining presenter on London Taxi Radio. Thank you, sir.
Brilliant.
Thanks for watching The Gentleman Cabbie. Click the videos to see more great interviews, and don't forget to subscribe.